Hi there, my name is Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel Bandy's Books, and today I am here to do my Aardvark Book Club predictions for the month of February 2024. So I have been having so much fun with these book club predictions, and in particular I'm really enjoying trying to predict what Aardvark is going to predict. Their picks have been so spectacular and on point, and they're just such a great book club. If you haven't checked them out before, you should definitely do so. And I say that not as a sponsored post or because I'm earning any commission from Aardvark. I'm not. I just really like what they're doing. I love their social media game and how interactive they are with their followers, and that they're picking books that are a little bit outside of the book club norm. So with that being said, let's jump straight into the predictions. February is a really heavy month for book publishing. There are so many great new releases, and I have a ton to talk about today. We're gonna start with the historical fiction genre, and I have two selections. The first book that we're going to be talking about is The Hidden Life of Cecily Larson by Ellen Baker. This currently has a 4.35 and 84 ratings on Goodreads so far. 1924, Chicago. Cecily Larson's mother drops 4-year-old Cecily off at an orphanage, promising to return for her when she has enough money to support the both of them. But she never does. At age 7, she is sold to a local circus where she ends up finding a family of sorts. But as she ages, cracks start to form. 2015, Minnesota. 94-year-old Cecily lives a quiet life. But when her family surprises her with a DNA test, a tragic love story comes to light. I selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because I think this sounds like a really interesting story. I love that we see Cecily through her childhood finding a home within the circus, and then years later as her family uncovers some of these hidden secrets. I think this is going to be a really interesting read, and I think this would be a fun pick for historical fiction for Aardvark. My second pick for historical fiction is The Last Days of the Midnight Ramblers by Sarah Tomlinson. This currently has a 3.59 and 49 ratings on Goodreads so far. The Midnight Ramblers are an iconic band, as famous for their backstage drama as they are for their music. The enduring mystery around the death of their lead singer Mal pushed the band to mythological status. In the lead up to writing her memoir, a ghostwriter for Mary, Mal's wife and bandmate, must work to coax the truth out of her. I selected this book for Aardvark because this is a debut novel, and I feel like this style of book is really popular right now. This reminds me in some ways of Daisy Jones and the Six. I think it'll be fun to follow this band and their iconic shenanigans, and I'm really curious about this mystery element involving the lead singer's death. Next up, we have the thriller, mystery, and horror genres, and I have two selections this time. First up is The Butcher of the Forest by Premee Mohamed. This currently has a 4.01 and 157 ratings on Goodreads so far. At the north end of a land ruled by a monstrous foreign tyrant lies the wild forest known as Elmiver. Anytime anyone enters, they never come back, except for Varys Thorn, who once rescued a child from the forest. When the tyrant's 2 young children go missing, Thorn is ordered to enter the forest and bring them back. I've selected this book for Aardvark because this is one of those books that I feel like might be under the radar. This is an author who's published quite a bit of work previously. We have a book that sounds really interesting and is receiving really great feedback so far. And this isn't exactly straight horror, it's kind of a horror fantasy mix, which I think makes it interesting and is something that I haven't quite seen from Aardvark previously. Then we have Night Watching by Tracey. This currently has a 4.15 and 342 ratings on Goodreads so far. A woman is stuck at home with her kids one night during a blizzard. She hears the disturbingly familiar sound of footsteps coming up the stairs late at night. Hidden in the shadows, she sees the face of a man. She quietly grabs the children and heads to a secret hidden room somewhere else in the house. As she catches a glimpse of the man's face, she realizes that the situation is much more dire than she'd originally imagined. I selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because this is a debut thriller novel, and I love that we have this locked room scenario. We have a mom and her 2 young children trapped within this room, and not only are they trapped within this room, but they're also confined to this house by this blizzard that is raging outside. So there's not a lot of opportunity for escape. I think this could be really intense, and I think it would make a great thriller selection for Aardvark. Next up, we have the romance genre, and as I always say, romance is not my strongest genre. So these are just 2 books that sounded kind of interesting to me and that I feel fit with what Aardvark has done in the past in this area. First up, we have Antiquity by Hanna Johansson. This currently has a 3.44 and 434 ratings on Goodreads so far. An unnamed lonely woman in her 30s becomes enamored with an older artist named Helena. She is then invited to join Helena and her teenage daughter Olga in the Greek city of Ermoupoli, where they summer. At first an object of jealousy, Olga transforms into an object of desire. I selected this book for Aardvark because this isn't your typical fluffy romance. I feel like this is the type of romance that's going to push the envelope and kind of delve into a taboo or illicit romance. I also think that this is going to be a much more literary vibe, which I think Aardvark really likes to pick up literary fiction. So I could see this fitting right in with some of the picks they've had in the past. Then we have The Frame Up by Gwenda Bond. This currently has a 3.52 and 126 ratings on Goodreads so far. Dany Poisson is the daughter and former accomplice to the world's most famed art thief. Their magical abilities give them an edge on the competition. That is until Dany sold her mother out to the FBI when she was 17. 10 years later, her mom's shadowy partner Archer offers to reconcile Dany with her mother, their gang, and Elliot, the love of her life. You know, if she'll just steal a particular painting for him. I selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because I think this might be an under-the-radar type of release. Gwenda Bond has written quite a few books before, and I haven't really been hearing that much about this particular one. We have some romance elements in that we know Dany is going to be rekindling with her former love, Elliot. We also have family issues where she's going to be trying to reconcile with the mother that she sold out. I believe that there is some magical realism elements as well incorporated in how Dany and her mother have been so successful at stealing art. There's like all this mystery around why Dany sold her mother out in the first place. I think this book offers a lot to really enjoy, and I could see this being a fun pick for Aardvark. Next up, we're going to jump into the literary and contemporary fiction genre. I have 4 selections. First up is Piglet by Lottie Hazell. This currently has a 3.93 and 353 ratings on Goodreads so far. Outside of a stubborn childhood nickname, Piglet is rather happy with how her life has turned out. She's an up-and-coming cookbook publisher, has a great group of friends, and a lovely fiance named Kit. One of the many things that Kit loves is the elaborate meals that Piglet is always whipping up. But when Kit confesses a horrible betrayal 2 weeks before their wedding, Piglet finds herself hungry. She's torn between the life she's always wanted and her ravenous desire for more. I selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because it is a debut novel, and again, Aardvark likes to feature kind of quirky literary fiction, and I feel like this has that vibe. It has a very quirky element. The cover of this book also really fits Aardvark's vibe as well. I could see this being a fantastic part of their collection. Then I have A Fire So Wild by Sarah Ruiz-Grossman. This currently has a 4.07 and 15 ratings on Goodreads so far. As a wildfire threatens Berkeley, the city's inhabitants are forced to reckon with the cracks in the lives they've built. Abigail, a wealthy homeowner, decides to throw a lavish party in a hillside manor to raise money for an affordable housing project and to prove herself to her family. Sunny, a construction worker who sleeps in a van, is in the running for one of the apartments, but only if enough funds are raised. As the fire threatens, inequalities are confronted. I selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because this is a debut novel that I think is going to be dealing with some really relevant themes. We have the haves and the have-nots, and this encroaching fire is really going to make the difference between the two groups show. I think that Aardvark likes to pick books that have a lot to say, and I feel like this one could be that. Then I have Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. This currently has a 4.19 and 156 ratings on Goodreads so far. Colorado, 1864. Star, a young survivor of the Sand Creek Massacre, is imprisoned. He is then forced to learn English and to practice Christianity. A generation later, Star's son Charles is sent to a school where he is brutalized by the man who tortured his father. The only thing that he has to cling to are the moments that he shares with his friend Opal Viola. Oakland, 2018. Opal Viola is barely holding the family together after a shooting nearly kills her nephew. Now her nephew is obsessed with the videos of the shooting, and his younger brother is suffering from PTSD from the violence of the events. Opal is experimenting with peyote and ceremony as a way to heal her family's wounds. Now you may be saying to yourself, hey Caitlin, I watched your book of the month prediction video and you predicted the same book over there. How are you predicting this for both book clubs? And that's because I could really honestly see either book club featuring this book. That said, I am actually leaning towards Aardvark featuring it. And that's because Tommy Orange is a very well-known and respected author. He's an Indigenous writer. And I feel like this book, while it's getting some buzz, I don't think it's getting as much buzz as it should be. I could see them featuring this as one of their under-the-radar releases. And I sure hope they do because it looks like it's going to be a fantastic read. Then we have The Blueprint by Gianna Rashad. This currently has a 4.15 and 20 ratings on Goodreads so far. Soline Bonnet lives in Texas, where choice no longer exists. An algorithm determines a Black woman's spouse, occupation, and residence. She finds solace in penning a biography about Henriette, an ancestor who was an enslaved concubine to a wealthy Louisiana planter in the 1800s. But history repeats itself when Celine, lonely and naive, finds herself entangled with Bastien Martin, a high-ranking government official. I selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because this is a debut novel, and I feel like this is also going to be exploring some really deep themes. Again, we know that Aardvark likes to occasionally feature books that have really deep thematic explorations. I could see this being one of those. Next up, we have the sci-fi, mythology, and fantasy genres. I have 4 selections for this category. First up, we have Baby X by Kira Peikoff. This currently has a 4.33 and 107 ratings on Goodreads so far. Near Future USA. Famous singer Trace Thorn is tired of being targeted by the Vault, an illegal black market site devoted to stealing popular DNA. Sick of paying ransom money, he hires biosecurity guard Ember Reagan to ensure his biological safety. Ember will do anything she can to keep her clients safe. But when she and Thorn are confronted by a pregnant woman who claims that Thorn is the father of her baby, all bets are off. I selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because I think this is that science fiction, speculative fiction sort of a deal that is going to be delving into the possibility of black market agencies that are taking famous people's DNA and selling it off to the highest bidder. This also seems like it's going to have some thriller elements because we have a pregnant woman who is claiming that Thorn is the father of her child, and we have biosecurity that's supposedly protecting his DNA. So I think we're going to be delving into how this all happened. It sounds like it could be a really interesting read. Then we have Neferura by Malayna Evans. This currently has a 3.80 and 157 ratings on Goodreads so far. Power comes with a price, and peace never lasts. Neferura, princess and high priestess of Kemet, knows this. Her mother is the great pharaoh, so it's hard to forget. When her vile half-brother plots to assassinate her mother, Neferura must decide what she will risk to save her people from a tyrant. I selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because this is something a little bit different than I think Aardvark has done previously. This is a book that is anchored in Egyptian history and mythology, and it features a badass female character. I think that this might make for an interesting choice for Aardvark Book Club. Then I have The Briar Book of the Dead by A.G. Slatter. This currently has a 4.67 and 27 ratings on Goodreads so far. Silverton, a small town on a remote mountain pass, is run by witches. They protect the threshold of the civilized world and the Darklands where the Leech Lords hold sway. But things are changing in Silverton with new forces coming into play, and ancient mysteries and sins refusing to stay buried. I've selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because A.G. Slatter is a pretty well-known author, but I feel like this is one of those under the radar type releases. I like that this has some dark fantasy elements. Usually Slatter likes to focus her books on folkloric creatures, and I think this could be a fun addition for Aardvark Book Club. And then we have Fathomfolk by Eliza Chan. This currently has a 3.64 and 169 ratings on Goodreads so far. Welcome to Tiankawi, the shining pearl of human civilization, and a safe haven for those fleeing civil unrest. At least that's how it appears at first. In the semi-flooded city, humans peer down from skyscrapers and aerial walkways on the Fathomfolk, sirens, sea witches, kelpies, and kappas who live in the polluted waters below. Half-siren Mira is promoted to captain of the border guard and hopes to reform restrictive laws against the Fathomfolk. But a dragon exiled to the city puts her goals at risk. Nami, the new dragon, is frustrated by the soft approach and throws her lot in with the anti-human extremists. Cordelia, a second-gen sea witch, is determined to do what she must to survive. When extremists sabotage the annual boat race, violence erupts. I selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because this is a debut novel, and although I know that Aardvark doesn't really feature fantasy that often, or that it's not their main genre, I think this could be an interesting choice. We have a lot going here. There's tons of mythological creatures. I think we have a really interesting dynamic between the free humans up above and the oppressed Fathomfolk. I feel like this could get into some really interesting topics. And finally, we have nonfiction. I have one selection for this category this month, and that is Splinters by Leslie Jamison. This currently has a 4.19 and 59 ratings on Goodreads so far. This book is an exploration of the most intimate relationships in Jamison's life, her consuming love for her young daughter, a ruptured marriage once swollen with hope, and the shaping legacy of her own parents' once complicated bond. It's a deep reckoning with the muchness of life and art. I selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because this is Jamison's nonfiction debut. They have written quite a few fiction books before, so it's kind of interesting to see them verge into the nonfiction genre. And I think that this sounds like a deep exploration of relationships and bonds, and something that I think would fit well with Aardvark's selections previously. I also think the cover of this book really fits with Aardvark's aesthetic, and I could see this being a good choice for them. So that is the end of my selections for Aardvark February 2024. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, hit the thumbs up button and comment down below. Let me know what you thought of these picks. Are there any of these books that you're really excited about reading? Were any of them on your radar? Are there any of these books that you're like, yeah, right, Aardvark is never going to pick that? And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button down below, as well as the notification bell so that you never miss a video. And that way we can see each other again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.